The sound of splintering wood echoed through my small bakery as Marcus kicked down the front door, his designer shoes making quick work of the hand-painted sign I'd spent weeks perfecting. Behind him, his three friends laughed, their expensive watches glinting in the afternoon sun. "Really, Sophia? This is what you've been wasting Dad's money on?" Marcus gestured around my shop with exaggerated disgust. "A pathetic little bakery in the wrong part of town? My name is Sophia Blackwood, and at 29, I was watching my older brother destroy everything I'd built over the past year. The display cases filled with carefully crafted pastries, the vintage decor I'd handpicked from flea markets, the warm atmosphere I'd created. All of it meant nothing to him." "That's mahogany, Marcus," I said calmly, though my hands shook as I gripped the counter. "Dad's money went into your hedge fund, remember? This place is all mine." He snorted, running a finger through the fresh powder sugar on a tray of just-finished bayonets. "Please, a Blackwood serving coffee and pastries like some common waitress? You're embarrassing the family name." One of his friends, Tyler, I think, they all looked the same in their matching suits, picked up a croissant and crushed it. "Looks like amateur hour to me, Marcus. Didn't you say your sister went to business school?" "Dropped out," Marcus corrected, his smile cruel. "Couldn't hack it. Could you, Soph? Had to settle for playing baker instead." I watched them destroy my work, remembering the real reason I'd left business school. The mysterious withdrawal from my trust fund that had forced me to drop out, which I'd later traced back to Marcus's investments. He thought I didn't know, thought I'd never figured it out. "You need to leave," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling the police." Marcus laughed, the sound sharp and hollow. "The police? What are you going to tell them? That your big brother came to talk sense into his delusional sister?" He picked up a framed review from the local paper, my first positive press, and dropped it, glass shattering across the floor. "Besides," he continued, "Dad agrees with me. This little experiment of yours needs to end. You're coming back home where you belong." I thought about the folder hidden in my office safe, the one containing every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence I'd gathered over the past year. Marcus had no idea I'd been watching, waiting, documenting everything. "And if I refuse?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Marcus's smile turned predatory. "Then maybe something unfortunate happens. Small businesses fail all the time, don't they, boys? Health code violations, electrical problems, mysterious accidents." His friends murmured in agreement, already starting to tip over tables and chairs. The morning's fresh bread scattered across the floor, hours of work destroyed in seconds. "You have until the end of the week," Marcus declared. "Close this embarrassment down, or we'll close it for you." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Sophia, don't bother running to Dad. Who do you think sent me?" After they left, I surveyed the damage. Broken glass, destroyed pastries, overturned furniture. It would take hours to clean up. But as I picked up a shattered picture frame, I felt something other than despair. I felt ready. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya, my best friend and secret weapon. "Security cameras got everything. Audio's crystal clear. Ready when you are." I smiled, thinking about the hidden cameras I'd installed months ago, after the first time Marcus had visited to express his disapproval. Every threat, every act of vandalism, all caught on high-definition video. Another text came through, this one from Daniel, my contact at the SEC. "Files received. Your brother's been busy. Meeting tomorrow?" Marcus thought he was so clever, using Dad's company to hide his illegal trades, skimming from family trusts, manipulating accounts. He never imagined his quiet little sister would be capable of tracking it all, building a case that would bring down not just him, but the entire corrupt empire he'd built. I began cleaning up, carefully documenting each piece of damage. My customers would be disappointed tomorrow, but this would be the last time Marcus ever touched my business. "Need help?" Maya appeared in the broken doorway, her face grim as she took in the destruction. "Actually," I said, straightening up, "I need you to set up that meeting with the food critic from the Times, the one you've been holding off on." She raised an eyebrow. "You sure? I thought you wanted to wait." "No more waiting. Marcus wants to shut down an embarrassment?" I smiled, thinking of the recipes locked in my safe, the ones our grandmother had left me. Not him, not Dad, but me. Let's show him what this embarrassment can do. I stepped over the broken glass to retrieve my laptop from the office. On the screen was an email I'd drafted months ago, waiting for exactly this moment. Subject line: Evidence of securities fraud at Blackwood Investments. Time to make some calls, I told Maya, hitting send. My brother thinks he's shutting down a little bakery. He has no idea he just started a war. Marcus had always underestimated me, seen me as the family failure who couldn't handle the corporate world. He never understood that leaving business school wasn't about failing, it was about choosing a different path, one that would ultimately lead to his downfall. I looked around my destroyed shop, already planning its resurrection. Marcus thought he was teaching me a lesson about staying in my place. Instead, he was about to learn one about underestimating the wrong person. The war for the Blackwood legacy was about to begin, and for once I had all the ingredients for success. The next morning, I opened my bakery as usual but with a twist. The broken door and vandalized interior became part of my story. I placed a sign outside. Closed for indoor seating, but our spirit can't be broken. All pastries 50% off. Served through our new sidewalk window. The response was immediate. My regular customers, seeing the damage, spread the word. By noon, the line stretched around the block. Everyone wanted to support the small bakery that refused to be bullied. Local news vans arrived by early afternoon. Miss Blackwood, a reporter asked, microphone extended, "Can you tell us what happened?" I gave her my carefully prepared response. Just an unfortunate incident, but we're staying open. Our customers deserve their daily dose of happiness, broken door or not. What I didn't mention was my morning meeting with the SDC investigators. Daniel had been thorough in his review of the documents I provided. Your brother's been running quite a scheme, he'd explained, spreading files across my office desk. Fake accounts, manipulated trading records, misappropriated funds. The evidence is overwhelming. My phone buzzed. Marcus calling again. I let it go to voicemail, just like I had his previous 20 calls since last night's email went out. Maya burst into my office, grinning. You're trending locally on social media. Hashtags of Sophia Bakery is taking off. I smiled, checking the security cameras that showed the growing crowd outside. Perfect. Is everything ready for tomorrow? The Times food critic is confirmed for 9 a.m., she nodded. And the TV segment about resilient local businesses airs tonight. Just then, my father stormed through the broken door, his face red with fury. Sophia, what have you done? I met his gaze calmly. Hello, Dad. Would you like a croissant? They're still warm. Don't play cute with me, he snarled. Marcus told me about your ridiculous accusations. Securities fraud? Have you lost your mind? I pulled out my grandmother's old recipe book, the one she left me in her will, the one that had made Dad and Marcus so angry. No, Dad. I finally found it. Opening the book, I showed him what was hidden in its pages. Not just recipes, but documents, records. Our grandmother had been keeping track of everything. Grandma wasn't just the family baker, I said quietly. She was the company's first accountant. She knew what you and Marcus were doing. She left me this book because she knew I'd understand what it meant. The color drained from his face. Sophia. The SEC has everything, Dad. Every transaction, every fake account, every client you and Marcus defrauded. I closed the book carefully. Grandma taught me more than just baking. He slumped into a chair, suddenly looking old. You'll destroy this family. No, I corrected him. You and Marcus did that. I'm just bringing the truth to light. As if on cue, Maya appeared with a tablet showing breaking news. Blackwood Investments under federal investigation. Billions in client funds questioned. Dad's phone started ringing. He looked at me, a mix of anger and something else. Respect, maybe? In his eyes. You planned this, he said. The bakery, the public attention, the timing, you're more of a Blackwood than I thought. I learned from the best, I replied, just not in the way you and Marcus expected. He stood slowly, straightening his tie. Your brother will never forgive you for this. I'm not looking for forgiveness, I said, turning back to my work. I'm looking for justice. And maybe a good Yelp review. After he left, I watched through the security cameras as reporters swarmed him. The story was breaking faster than even I'd anticipated. Marcus's threats to shut down my embarrassing bakery had given me the perfect opportunity to launch my carefully planned exposure of their crimes. My phone buzzed again. A text from Daniel. Federal agents just arrived at Blackwood Investments. Marcus is being brought in for questioning. I showed Maya the message. Ready for phase 2. She grinned, pulling out a stack of papers. The lease agreements for 3 new locations are ready to sign. And that recipe you've been working on? The one you called the Blackwood Redemption. I nodded, thinking of the special dark chocolate and cherry pastry I perfected, bitter and sweet, just like revenge. Time to show them what a real Blackwood business looks like. Outside, the line of customers had grown even longer. News cameras captured every moment as I worked, serving pastries through the broken door with a smile. Every bite spread the story. The small bakery that stood up to corporate bullies, the sister who chose flour over fraud, the baker who proved success comes in many flavors. Marcus had wanted to shut down what he saw as an embarrassment. Instead, he'd given me the perfect launch pad for expansion. While he faced federal investigators, I was becoming the face of resilient small business success. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served fresh from the oven, with a side of justice. 3 months later, I stood in my new flagship store, watching the morning sunlight stream through floor-to-ceiling windows. The space was everything my original bakery had been, but amplified. Warm wooden fixtures, gleaming display cases, and the irresistible aroma of fresh-baked success. The headline in today's business section told the story, from vandalized shop to empire. Sophia's sweet success opens 5th location. Below that was another headline, smaller but equally satisfying. Blackwood investment executives face federal charges. Your brother's sentencing this today, Maya reminded me, arranging our signature pastry, the Blackwood Redemption, in the display case. The dark chocolate and cherry creation had become our bestseller, featured in food magazines nationwide. I know, I said, adjusting my chef's coat. The embroidered logo, a phoenix rising from a whisk, seemed particularly appropriate today. The morning news played quietly on our cafe's mounted TV. Former investment executive Marcus Blackwood arrives at federal courthouse. The footage showed my brother, no longer smirking, being led into the building by federal agents. The bell above the door chimed, and I turned to find my father standing there, looking older than his 60 years. He'd lost weight since the scandal broke, his expensive suit hanging loose on his frame. "Sophia," he said quietly, "you look well." "We're not open yet," I replied, but gestured to a table anyway. "Coffee?" He sat heavily, his eyes taking in the busy staff preparing for opening, the line already forming outside. "I always thought," he paused, collecting himself. "I always thought you were wasting your potential here." I placed a cup of our premium roast in front of him, along with a still warm Blackwood Redemption. "You thought small meant unsuccessful." "Your grandmother," he said, staring into his coffee, "she would have loved this place." "She does love it," I corrected him. "Everything here is built on her foundations, her recipes, her books, her lessons about business and integrity." The TV caught our attention again. In related news, Sophia Blackwood's bakery chain continues its meteoric rise, with stocks in the newly public company trading at record highs. Dad flinched at that. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. While one half of the family faced prison for securities fraud, the other half was legitimately succeeding on Wall Street. "The board wants you to take over Blackwood Investments," he said suddenly. "After Marcus's sentencing, they think you could restore the family name." I laughed, genuinely amused. "They're a bit late. I'm already running a Blackwood business, one that makes people happy instead of making them victims." Maya approached with a tablet, showing me the morning's sales projections. Our new wholesale division was expanding faster than expected, with major grocery chains competing for contracts. "Besides," I continued, "I'm too busy building my own empire to fix your broken one." The morning sun caught the frame on the wall, that first newspaper review from my original shop, rescue from the glass Marcus had shattered. Beside it hung a photo of Grandma in her own bakery, young and proud, her books visible in the background. "She knew, didn't she?" Dad asked, following my gaze. "About what Marcus and I were doing." I nodded. "She documented everything. She just waited for someone who'd use the information the right way." "And the bakery? Was it all just a cover?" "No," I said firmly. "The bakery was always the dream. Exposing your fraud was just cleaning house." Outside, the line had grown longer. Food critics, social media influencers, and loyal customers all waiting for their daily dose of what we now called sweet justice. "Your brother's lawyer called," Dad said, standing to leave. "They're offering a plea deal." "Good," I replied, not looking up from the sales reports. "He can think about his choices over prison coffee." As Dad reached the door, he paused. You know, in some twisted way, Marcus did exactly what he threatened to do. He shut down that little bakery you had. I smiled, watching my staff prepare for another record-breaking day. No, Dad, he just taught me to build something bigger. After he left, Maya brought over the morning papers. Every business section told the same story. While Marcus faced years in prison, my embarrassing bakery had become a national brand. The little shop he'd vandalized had grown into a corporation worth 10 times what he'd stolen. Ready to open? Maya asked, grinning as she saw the crowd outside. I tied on my apron, the one Grandma had left me along with her books and secrets. Time to serve some humble pie. The security camera footage from that night, of Marcus destroying my shop, still played on a small screen near the register. Not to remind me of the damage, but to show how far we come. Below it, a small sign read, "From broken doors come open windows." Marcus had tried to shut down what he saw as a family embarrassment. Instead, he helped launch a legacy that would outlast his crimes. Sometimes the sweetest success rises from the ashes of someone else's attempts to tear you down. And as for that broken door, I kept it, mounted in our flagship store's entrance hall. A reminder that sometimes you have to let them break things, just so you can build something better. Hi, everyone, I'm Hazel. I've spent years living with a controlling stepdad who tried to break me but ended up breaking himself instead. Life as a pre-med student isn't easy, especially when you're working part-time at Patterson's Pharmacy to save up for med school. But honestly, work and studying were my escape from the suffocating atmosphere at home. 3 years ago, my mom, Amelia, married Henry Cooper, and everything changed. Hazel, why are the lights still on in your room? Do you think money grows on trees? His voice would boom through the house at 10 p.m. while I was studying for my biochemistry finals. I'm studying for an important exam, Henry, I'd reply, trying to stay calm. You can study during daylight hours. Your mother and I pay the bills here. Mom would just stand there, wringing her hands. Henry, maybe just this once. Amelia, don't undermine my authority. We talked about this. That's how it always went down. Mom used to be vibrant. She ran her own boutique and was so full of life. Now she's just a shadow of herself, always trying to keep the peace. She sold the boutique because Henry convinced her it was too stressful. My best friend Harper noticed the change too. During our study sessions, she'd bring it up. Girl, your mom used to rock designer outfits and host the best neighborhood parties. Now she barely leaves the house. I know, I'd sigh. Henry's got her thinking she can't make any decisions without his approval. He even checks her phone. That's messed up. Why do you guys leave? It's complicated. I'd say. The house is in Mom's name, but Henry has his fingers in all her finances now. My bedroom became my sanctuary. Every photo of my dad, every academic award, every little memento told a story of happier times. There's this one picture of Dad and me at my high school science fair. I'd won first place with my cancer cell research project. He was so proud. A little girl from Boston's going to cure cancer one day, he'd always say. Henry, of course, had other opinions. Medical school is expensive, Hazel. Maybe you should consider something more realistic. To the neighbors, we looked like the perfect blended family. Henry played golf with the Hendersons every Sunday and flashed his fake smile at every neighborhood barbecue. But behind closed doors, your mother needs to understand that I make the decisions in this house. And you, young lady, need to learn respect. Despite it all, I maintained straight A's. My professors at Boston University had no idea what went on at home. No one did, except Harper. I pushed forward because I knew education was my ticket out. Keep your head down and focus on your goals, Harper always reminded me. 2 more years and you'll be in med school. Sometimes I felt like I was suffocating. You're stronger than he is, Hazel. Remember that? Harper would say. And when I looked at my walls covered with acceptance letters and Dean's List certificates, I knew she was right. Henry could control the house, the finances, and even my mom for now. But he couldn't control my future. I just never imagined how far he'd go to try to break my spirit. Spring break should have been a happy time. I'd aced all my midterms and couldn't wait to crash in my room. Maybe binge some Netflix. Instead, I walked into a nightmare. What's going on? I froze in the doorway, staring at empty walls where my life used to be. My bed, my desk. Everything was gone. Oh, you're home early, Henry said, barely looking up from his laptop. He was already set up at a new desk where my bed used to be. I needed a home office. You're too old to have a room here anyway. Where's all my stuff? I demanded. I cleared it out. You can check the dumpster if you want anything. My heart stopped. The dumpster? It had been raining all week. I ran outside, nearly slipping on the wet pavement. There, in the dumpster behind our house, my entire life was soaking in rainwater. Photos of Dad, my awards, everything. You had no right. I screamed, pulling out a waterlogged photo album. The picture of Dad and me at the science fair was ruined, his smile distorted by water damage. Lower your voice. Henry stormed after me, his face red with fury. The neighbors will hear, he hissed. Good. Let them hear how you threw out my dead father's photos. I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. You ungrateful little. Before I could react, he grabbed my arm, shoving me hard against the garage wall. I put a roof over your head. Food on the table. Dad put this roof over our heads, I yelled, cutting him off. This is his house. Mom appeared in the doorway, her hands wringing like always. Hazel, honey, Henry just needs a quiet place to work. We can get you new photos. These were originals, Mom, the only copies. Amelia, go inside, Henry ordered, his tone icy. Your daughter needs to learn respect. You're hurting her, Henry. Mom's voice trembled, but she didn't move. I said go inside. After a long pause, she obeyed, disappearing back into the house. As soon as they were gone, I dropped to my knees and began salvaging what I could from the dumpster. My books were ruined, my photo albums destroyed. But then I noticed something unusual, a stack of papers wedged under the debris. My hands shook as I pulled them out. Bank statements, letters from casinos, loan documents. My eyes scanned the pages, my breath catching in my throat. $50,000 in gambling debts, loan applications in Mom's name, a notice of termination from his firm, dated 2 months ago. Hazel. Harper's voice startled me. She'd driven over after my frantic text. Oh my God, I whispered, shoving the papers at her. He's trying to remortgage the house. Look at the signature. He's been practicing Mom's handwriting. Harper's jaw tightened. That's straight up fraud. Keep your voice down, I said, pulling her behind the dumpster as Henry came out of the house. We watched silently as he got into his car and drove off, probably to another business meeting. You're not staying here tonight, Harper said firmly. I can't leave Mom alone with him, I protested. Girl, he just put his hands on you. We need a plan. But first, you need to be safe. I hesitated, looking up at the window of what used to be my bedroom. Through the glass, I could see Mom wiping down Henry's new desk, erasing any trace of me from the room. Harper helped me gather the papers and pack whatever I could salvage. Back at her house, we sorted through the water-damaged belongings on her bedroom floor. That's when I found even more documents, casino markers, bounced checks. He's in deep with some dangerous people, I said. Harper's pre-law brain was already working. This is evidence, she said, but we need to be smart about how we use it. That night, staring at the ruined photo of Dad from my science fair, I made a promise to myself. Henry thought he could erase me, break me like he broke Mom. But he had no idea what he just started. We'll make him pay, Harper said, squeezing my hand. Not just for the room, I whispered, my eyes on the photo. For everything. The next day, we parked Harper's car 2 blocks from Henry's favorite bar. You won't believe what I found, I said, flipping through my notes. His old firm didn't just fire him, they caught him cooking the books. How'd you get that info? Harper asked. Remember Jenny from high school? Her dad's on their board. One casual coffee meetup and boom, the whole story came out. We watched as Henry stumbled out of Al's bar, probably after losing another grand at poker. It's the same pattern everywhere he goes, I said, flipping through more papers. He gets hired, gains trust, then money starts disappearing. Harper's laptop glowed as she typed furiously. His ex-wife, Angela, finally responded to your message. She's willing to talk. The next day, we met Angela Thompson at a quiet coffee shop across town. She didn't hold back. He cleaned out our joint accounts right before filing for divorce, she said bitterly. Claimed it was business investments gone wrong. Sound familiar? Did you ever press charges? Harper asked. Angela shook her head. I couldn't prove anything. Henry's smart, he always covers his tracks. But I've kept everything. Bank statements, threatening texts, emails. Back home, things were getting worse. I overheard snippets of late-night arguments. Just sign here, Amelia. It's a great investment opportunity. But Henry, this is my house. Our house. Don't you trust me, after everything I've done for you and your ungrateful daughter? That night, I crept into Mom's room while Henry was out. Mom, wake up, I whispered, shaking her gently. We need to talk. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion turning to concern. Hazel, what's wrong? We need to get your money somewhere safe, I said, lowering my voice. I know about the second mortgage. Her hands trembled. He said we needed it for his gambling debts, or the money he stole from his firm, I interrupted. Her eyes widened. How did you? I found proof, Mom. Lots of it. But right now, we need to protect what's left. The next morning, while Henry nursed another hangover, Mom and I walked into First National Bank. Welcome, Mrs. Mitchell, the teller greeted her. How can we help today? Mom straightened her shoulders. I'd like to open an account, just for me. Each week, we transferred small amounts, just enough not to raise suspicion. Henry was too busy covering his tracks to notice. Your mother's getting smarter with our finances, he grumbled one night at dinner. She's even started asking questions about the mortgage papers. I shrugged, pushing my food around my plate. Really? That's interesting. He pointed his fork at me. Don't get any ideas. I know you've been putting thoughts in her head. Me? I said innocently. I've been so busy with school. Besides, you made it clear this isn't my home anymore. Late that night, Mom slipped into the basement where I was staying temporarily. I moved another $1,000 today, she whispered. The new account has almost $20,000 now. Good, I said. Keep acting normal. Henry's getting sloppy. He made some big losses at the casino last night. Her eyes narrowed. How do you know that? I smirked. Let's just say his bookie isn't as discreet as he thinks. The next morning, Harper called. It's all coming together, she said. The firm's internal audit, Angela's records, the casino debts. We just need one more piece. I watched Henry pace through the basement window, shouting into his phone. His desperation was palpable. Don't worry, I said grimly. That piece is about to walk right through his door. Later that day, a man arrived at our house. Mrs. Mitchell, he asked. Tom Henderson from Cooper and Associates. Mind if we talk about your stepfather? That call set off an avalanche. At a downtown coffee shop, I slid a thick folder across the table. Everything's here. The embezzlement, forged signatures, gambling debts, even his attempts to remortgage my mom's house. Tom's face hardened as he flipped through the evidence. We suspected he was stealing, but this is systematic fraud. Within days, Henry's carefully built house of cards came crashing down. His former partner, James, showed up at our door. Where's the money, Henry? The board wants answers. What money? What are you talking about? Henry blustered, but his confidence was cracking. Don't play dumb. We have proof you've been stealing for months. That night, Mom finally spoke up. I want to divorce Henry, and I'm pressing charges for attempting to forge my signature. His face turned red with fury. You ungrateful. Choose your next words carefully, I said, stepping between them. The police are already on their way. He froze, his face draining of color as officers walked up the driveway. Behind them was Tommy, his bookie, or so I thought. Turns out, Tony was an undercover agent investigating illegal gambling operations. Henry Cooper, one officer said, we have some questions about certain financial discrepancies. As Henry was escorted out, the neighbors watched from their porches. No more perfect family facade. You did this, he smiled at me. You'll regret it. Like I regretted finding my father's photos in a dumpster, I shot back. A week later, Mom launched her online boutique. I helped her set up her office in my old room. Look what came, she said, holding up a letter. My medical school acceptance. Dad would be so proud, she said, her eyes shining. Speaking of Dad, I pulled out a restored photo of us at the science fair. The restoration artist had done an incredible job. Mom hung it on the wall. Your father always said you changed the world. Harper called later with updates. Henry's case is solid. Multiple fraud charges, Prison time is inevitable. The DA says he's looking at 8 to 10 years minimum. Good, I said. Plus restitution, Harper added. And his gambling debts? They've destroyed his reputation. The country club even revoked his membership, not that he could afford it anyway. Standing in Mom's new office, watching her confidently manage her growing business, I realized something. Henry thought destroying my room would break me. Instead, it gave me evidence that destroyed him. Ready for the boutique's website launch? Mom asked, her eyes sparkling like they used to. Ready, and Mom, I'm proud of you. She hugged me tightly. We're survivors, baby. We always were. Looking at Dad's restored photo, I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be. What about you? If someone destroyed your most precious memories, especially irreplaceable photos of a deceased parent, how would you handle it? Would you take immediate revenge, or would you play the long game like I did? Share your thoughts below. Hi, I'm Harper, 28 years old and a nurse at Memorial Hospital. Harper, we have to get those designer flowers from Paris, the ones I showed you yesterday. My sister Scarlett bursts into my room at 6:00 a.m., right as I'm getting ready for my shift. Scarlett, those flowers cost more than my monthly salary, I sigh. We already agreed on the local florist. But Alexander's mother had them at her daughter's wedding. I can't look cheap in front of them. That's Scarlett for you, -24, headstrong, and used to getting what she wants. She's been living with me in our parents' house since they passed away 5 years ago. I've been the one handling everything. The mortgage, her college tuition, daily expenses, and now this wedding to Alexander, a man whose family likely has more money in their couch cushions than I make in a year. Later at work, Henry, one of my coworkers, catches me nodding off at the nurse's station. He's been my rock, always stepping up to cover my shifts when I'm overloaded. You look exhausted, Harper, he says gently. Scarlett's wedding, I mutter, rubbing my temples. It's draining my savings faster than a hemorrhaging patient. You can't keep this up, he warns. What about your plans for that clinic? On hold. Like everything else in my life. That evening, Scarlett's best friend Hazel drops by our house with uncontainable excitement. Oh my God, Scarlett, you have to see these imported crystal centerpieces I found. They're perfect. Harper, we need these, Scarlett declares, her eyes sparkling. I'm about to protest when my phone rings. It's Aunt Eleanor. How are you holding up, sweetheart? She asks. Barely, I admit. Scarlett's wedding is getting out of control. I warned you about enabling her entitled behavior, Aunt Eleanor sighs. She's just like her father, always wanting more than she can afford. I know, but she's all I have left. Later that night, as I sift through the mountain of bills, my hands start to shake. Another credit card statement reveals Scarlett's unchecked wedding expenses. My savings, everything I'd worked for to open my private clinic, is nearly gone. Scarlett, we need to talk about the budget, I say firmly the next morning. You're just jealous because you're still single, and I found someone from a good family, she snaps. Alexander says his mother thinks it's sad that you're just a nurse. I'm not just a nurse, I shoot back. I'm the one paying for your dream wedding. Whatever. Hazel says I deserve the best, and Alexander agrees. If you can't help me have my perfect day, maybe I should move in with them instead. She storms off, leaving me reeling. My dreams of opening my own clinic feel farther away than ever. And the worst part? This was only the beginning of how my sister would betray me. If I had known what was coming, maybe I would have listened to Aunt Eleanor's warning. Hours later, I'm halfway through another grueling shift when my supervisor's voice crackles over the intercom. Harper, we need you to stay for another shift. Multi-car pileup on the highway. I'm already 12 hours in, but lives are at stake. I'm going to need the strongest coffee in the break room, I tell Henry as we prep for the incoming trauma patients. You're a superhero, you know that? Henry says. Most people would have clocked out hours ago. After 16 exhausting hours, I finally dragged myself home, ready to collapse on the couch. But when I unlock the door, my exhausted brain can't process what I'm seeing. The living room is empty. Scarlett? My voice echoes through the bare rooms. Everything is gone. My phone buzzes and I glance at the screen. Scarlett, Alexander needed money for the wedding. Those old things weren't serving any purpose anyway. I'm hyperventilating when the front door opens. Scarlett walks in, flanked by Alexander and Hazel. How could you? I demand, my voice trembling. Those weren't just things. They were our parents' memories. Oh please, Scarlett scoffs, rolling her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. I deserve a perfect wedding, Harper. Alexander's family expects it. She's right, you know, Alexander smirks. Can't have my bride looking like she came from, well, here. Hazel is holding up her phone, recording the whole exchange with a gleeful expression. I'm calling the police, I snap, reaching for my phone. Go ahead, Scarlett says coldly, her voice dropping into a chilling calm. I'll just tell them how you've been abusing me for years. Hazel has plenty of footage of your angry outbursts. Who do you think they'll believe? A stressed-out nurse or a poor, abused sister? You wouldn't dare, I whisper. Try me. Her smile is ice. Oh, and by the way, those credit cards funding my wedding, the ones in your name, you should really be more careful with your personal information. My legs give out and I collapse onto the floor. The world spins as the reality sinks in. Identity theft, the furniture gone, my parents' legacy wiped away, all by my own sister. What is going on here? Aunt Eleanor's voice slices through the chaos like a knife. She is standing in the doorway, her sharp gaze taking in the empty house and my crumpled form on the floor. Perfect timing. Hazel sneers, still recording. More family drama for my video. Get out. Eleanor's voice is steel. All of you. Now. Scarlett tosses one last comment over her shoulder as she exits. The receipt from the furniture buyer is on the kitchen counter, not that you can do anything about it. When the door slams shut behind them, Eleanor kneels beside me, helping me to my feet. You're not sleeping on this floor tonight, she says firmly, grabbing my arm. Pack a bag. This isn't over. I glance around at my empty house, the bare walls still echoing with my parents' memories. It's all gone, sold off for a wedding dress and designer flowers. If Scarlett thought this betrayal would break me, she had no idea what was coming. Start from the beginning, Eleanor says later, spreading a stack of papers across her dining table. Every penny she spent. Every item she sold. My hands shake as I reach for the first bill, my resolve hardening. As I sift through months of credit card statements, I notice something strange, charges dating back to before Scarlett even started wedding planning. None of it adds up. That evening, Henry stops by after his shift, a stack of files in hand. Remember last year, when you couldn't find your social security card? He asks gently. I pulled some records from a hospital database. Scarlett's been using your identity since she turned 21. What? My voice trembles. That's not all. Aunt Eleanor chimes in, pulling up her laptop. I call the university where Scarlett claimed she graduated. They've never heard of her. My stomach drops. But I paid her tuition. I saw her grades. Photoshopped, Henry says grimly, pointing to the forged documents. Hazel's quite the expert at this kind of thing. As if on cue, my phone buzzes. It's Alexander's mother, asking to meet about some concerning charges. At her request, I visit the next day. Scarlett gave me this receipt for a Gucci bag last week, she explains, holding up the document. But when we tried to return it, the store said it was counterfeit. The pieces begin to fall into place. I think of Hazel's designer goods connection and the luxury items Scarlett flaunted at Alexander's social events. We need proof, Henry insists as he sets up a hidden recording app on my phone. The following day, I confront Scarlett at a cafe. The furniture money, where did it really go? Please, she laughs, unbothered. You think I spent it all on just a dress? Hazel and I have a good thing going with these rich idiots. They'll pay anything for designer stuff. What about the college tuition? I press. God, you're so gullible, Scarlett scoffs. That money, it funded our starter inventory. Hazel makes the fake receipts, I handle the sales. Alexander's snobby family made it way too easy. Every word records perfectly. A week later, Alexander's mother calls an emergency family dinner. Scarlett walks in, head held high, until she sees the university dean on a video call. Miss Scarlett, we have no record of your enrollment, let alone graduation. But I have my diploma right here, Scarlett stammers, fumbling with her phone. A rather poor forgery, Alexander's father replies, holding up a stack of fake receipts. Just like these. This is all a misunderstanding, Scarlett pleads, glancing around. Hazel, tell them. But Hazel's already cut a deal to avoid charges, leaving Scarlett to face the fallout alone. The wedding is off. Alexander rises from his seat, disgusted. Mother was right about you all along. Scarlett turns to me, tears streaming. Harper, please. You have to help me. I pull out my phone and play the cafe recording. Her face goes pale. You did this to yourself, I say, gathering my evidence. As Scarlett crumbles, I feel no satisfaction, just a deep, aching relief. The Alexander family presses fraud charges. Investigators uncover offshore accounts and reveal that Scarlett and Hazel scammed nearly $500,000 from unsuspecting victims. Scarlett receives a 5-year prison sentence. Hazel, 3. 6 months later, I'm standing in the middle of an empty medical office space. It's perfect, Henry says, squeezing my hand. My own clinic, I whisper, tears of gratitude welling in my eyes. Just like I always dreamed. I couldn't have done this without you, I add. He smiles, then drops to one knee, pulling out a ring. Suddenly, the clinic isn't the only dream coming true. 2 years later, my private practice thrives. Henry and I are planning our wedding. A small, intimate ceremony, nothing like Scarlett's over-the-top spectacle. Dr. Anderson, your next patient is ready, my receptionist calls. I glance at the nameplate on my door and smile. Every extra shift, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, it all led to this. Later that evening, curled up with Henry in our cozy home filled with new furniture and new memories, my phone buzzes with an unknown number. Scarlett, I miss you. I miss us. Please. Without hesitation, I block the number. Henry looks up from his sketches of nursery color schemes. This is my life now, I think. A life full of love, trust, and peace. That's the thing about karma. It doesn't forget. And neither do I. My story isn't about revenge. It's about rising above the toxicity and building something better. Scarlett has to live with her choices, while I finally get to live my dreams. What about you? What would you do if your sister used your childhood memories as collateral for her greed? Looking back, I wonder, should I have cut her off at the first red flag? Or was I right to keep giving her chances until she crossed the ultimate line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Charlotte, a 29-year-old special education teacher. Let me tell you about the time my father made me feel invisible while worshiping the ground my younger sister walked on. Look at these progress reports, Evelyn, I said, practically bouncing with excitement in the teacher's lounge. Tommy finally made eye contact today, and Jenny spoke 3 full sentences. That's amazing, Charlotte, Evelyn replied, smiling warmly. Your methods really work. Those kids are lucky to have you. But my joy evaporated when my phone buzzed. Another family dinner invitation. My stomach tightened as I read my father's text. Mia's got big news. Be there at 7. Evelyn rolled her eyes knowingly. Another showcase for the golden child. At least someone here appreciates what we do, I muttered, thinking about my principal, David, who just approved my proposal for a sensory room expansion. Gathering my teaching materials, I sighed and prepared for the evening ahead. Later, I stepped into my childhood home. Mia was already holding court, her designer blazer pristine, her smile dazzling. The partners were so impressed. They are fast-tracking my promotion, she exclaimed. Daddy, you should have seen their faces when I closed that merger deal. That's my girl, Dad said, his chest puffed with pride. A real career, real success. I pushed my food around on my plate, wishing I could disappear, something I'd mastered in this house. Charlotte, how's that little daycare job of yours? Mia smirked. It's not a daycare, Mia. I run a specialized program for children with autism, and we're seeing incredible results. Speaking of results, Dad interrupted. When are you going to get a real job? Your mother, God rest her soul, always worried you weren't living up to your potential. My job is real, Dad. Just today, one of my students. Playing with kids all day isn't a career, he cut me off. Mia's out there changing the world. But you? He shook his head. What do you even make at that place? Money isn't everything, Dad. These kids are making breakthroughs. Breakthroughs? Mia laughed. Like stacking blocks. Meanwhile, I'm managing million-dollar accounts. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Those kids show more emotional intelligence in one day than this family has in years. They're pure, honest, and are changing lives, including mine. Don't be so dramatic, Charlotte, Dad sighed. We just want what's best for you. No, I said, grabbing my purse. You want what looks best to your country club friends. I'm done trying to measure up to your warped definition of success. Evelyn's earlier words echoed in my head as I walked out. Your worth isn't measured by their validation. Some people are too blind to see the light they're standing in. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. You're just jealous because you couldn't cut it in the real world. If only they knew what real strength looked like the breakthroughs I witnessed in my classroom every day. The world was already spinning when Mia announced her engagement to Mason, some hotshot CEO she'd been dating for 6 months. Naturally, Dad turned it into the social event of the season. Did you hear? Mia's marrying into the Preston family, Dad bragged at the country club. Yes, that Preston Industries. At the engagement party, I stood in the corner, fingering the Teaching Excellence Award in my purse. I brought it, hoping for just one moment of fatherly pride. There you are, Charlotte. Mia's saccharine voice interrupted my thoughts. She dragged Mason over, his smile blindingly white, his cologne expensive. Mason has this amazing investment opportunity, Mia gushed. Very exclusive. We're offering early shares to family first. Mason grinned. Guaranteed returns of 40% in 6 months. That sounds unusually high, I said, my skepticism kicking in. The numbers didn't add up. Especially after what David had told me yesterday, whispers of fraud investigations surrounding Mason Preston. My stomach turned as Mason lowered his voice, flashing a confident smile. Your sister's already invested her clients' trust funds, he said smoothly. Smart move. How about you put in your teacher savings? We'll make you rich. My blood ran cold. Mia did what with her clients' money? Charlotte, don't be such a killjoy, Mia hissed, her tone venomous. This is completely legal. Mason knows what he's doing. I need some air, I mumbled, stepping away. As I turned to leave, I bumped into Linda, one of Mia's colleagues from her firm. Oh, Charlotte, she said in a hushed tone, glancing around nervously. I've been meaning to talk to you. Have you noticed anything strange about Mia lately? Missing client meetings? Unauthorized account access? Before I could answer, Dad's booming voice cut through the room. Everyone. A toast to Mia and Mason, the perfect power couple. He raised his glass, his pride palpable. Then his gaze landed on me. Some of us might want to take notes on what real success looks like. Richard J., one of Dad's business associates, chimed in, grinning. I've offered Charlotte a chance to join our venture, but she seems reluctant. Dad's face darkened. Charlotte, are you refusing to support your sister again? I'm not comfortable investing money I don't have into something I don't understand, I said firmly. That's your problem, Dad snapped. Always playing it safe with your little special needs kids. No vision. No ambition. The room fell silent. Mia's colleagues exchanged uneasy glances. Those little special needs kids, I said, pulling the Teaching Excellence Award from my purse, just earned me a state teaching award. Not that anyone here would care. A participation trophy, Mia sneered. Meanwhile, Mason and I are building an empire. An empire built on what, Mia? I shot back. Other people's money? Her confident facade cracked, her face twitching. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I do. Maybe that's why you're so desperate for my investment, to cover the gaps in your clients' accounts. That's enough. Dad barked, stepping between us. Charlotte, either support this family properly or leave. Gladly, I said, my voice steady as I scanned the room. Whispers erupted. Did she say client accounts? The SEC has been asking questions. Those returns can't be legal. As I walked out, my phone buzzed with a text from David. You were right about Mason Preston. Investigations go public next week. The pieces were falling into place, and for once, I was glad to be the invisible daughter. The next morning started with a gut-wrenching moment. Tommy's mother, tears streaming down her face, stood in my classroom. We've lost everything, Charlotte, she sobbed. Mason Preston's investment scheme, our savings, Tommy's therapy fund. It's all gone. My heart shattered. I hugged her tightly, my mind racing. Before I could process it, my phone rang, a call from an unknown number. Charlotte? This is Teresa Mitchell, senior partner at Hamilton & Associates. Do you have a moment to discuss your sister? I stepped into the hallway. What about Mia? We've noticed irregularities in several client accounts, large transfers to Preston Industries. Your name has come up in some conversations. My pulse quickened. What does that have to do with me? Before she could elaborate, Mia burst into my classroom after school, looking frantic. "Charlotte, I need you to sign these papers," she said, thrusting a folder at me. "They're just routine documents saying you witnessed some client meetings. No big deal." Last year, Mia cornered me in my classroom with a folder in hand, her demeanor frantic. "Sign these," she said, shoving papers toward me. "They're just routine documents, confirmations that you witnessed some client meetings. Meetings I wasn't at." My stomach dropped. "What is this about, Mia?" She scowled. "The firm's doing an audit. I need to show proper documentation for some transfers." "You mean the transfers to Mason's company, the one that wiped out Tommy's therapy fund?" Her face hardened. "Business has risks, not that you'd understand, playing with blocks all day." "Playing with blocks?" I snapped. "While you're stealing from innocent people." "Keep your voice down," she hissed, glancing around. "Sign the papers, or I'll tell Dad you're trying to ruin my life again." I held the papers, remembering Tommy's mother sobbing in my classroom, her tears of despair. "No," I said firmly, setting them down. That night, I compiled everything I knew: dates, amounts, conversations. My hands shook as I sent the evidence anonymously to Teresa Mitchell. The next morning, the headlines screamed, "Preston Industries collapses amid fraud allegations." My phone erupted with texts. "How dare you betray family?" from Dad. "They're investigating me because of you," from Mia. "Your evidence was crucial. Thank you," from Teresa. I was teaching when Dad stormed into my classroom. "Your sister's firm has suspended her," he growled. "They're talking criminal charges. This is your fault." "Mr. Anderson, please," Evelyn, my colleague, interjected. "This is a classroom." Dad ignored her. "Charlotte, if you just supported Mia, signed those papers. You mean helped her cover up stealing from people like Mrs. Chen." I pointed to Tommy's empty chair. "Her son can't afford therapy anymore because of Mia and Mason." "Business losses happen," Dad said sharply. "Family protects family." "Tell that to Mr. Roberts." Teresa's voice cut through the tension as she stepped into the room. "He's 82 and lost his retirement fund." "Or Mrs. Peterson, she can't afford cancer treatments now." Dad faltered, his confidence crumbling as Teresa listed more victims. "Richard," she continued, "your daughter Mia redirected client funds to Preston's Ponzi scheme. Charlotte tried to protect people. She betrayed her sister," Dad yelled. "No," Teresa said firmly. "She chose right over wrong. Something you taught her. Once upon a time." Dad's face crumpled. "Mia said it was all legal," he whispered. "She lied. Just like she's been lying about being the perfect daughter," I said, exhaustion lining my voice. As security escorted Dad out, Evelyn placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" I looked at Tommy's empty chair. "I will be. Some things are more important than family loyalty." That evening, the news broke. Mia and Mason faced charges, their faces plastered on every channel. My classroom became my sanctuary. Weeks later, during lunch, Evelyn burst into the teacher's lounge. "Charlotte, we got it," she exclaimed. "The national grant for the autism program." Before I could celebrate, my phone rang. "Turn on channel 7, David said. Your students are about to change everything." The broadcast showed Tommy standing at a podium, his voice steady. "Before Miss Charlotte, I couldn't talk. Now I'm telling everyone that different isn't less." Jenny followed, using her communication device. Parents and professionals testified, praising our program. The reporter announced federal funding of $2 million. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Dad. He'd had a heart attack. In his hospital room, his voice was weak. "I was wrong, Charlotte. So wrong. I read about your program, saw Tommy speak. You did something meaningful while I was bragging about Mia's blood money." "It's a bit late for that," I said, holding back tears. "I know," he whispered, "but please, I'm proud of you, Charlotte. I failed as a father. Give me another chance." "Save your strength, Dad." 3 months later, I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Anderson Center for Exceptional Learning. Tommy and Jenny held the scissors, their smiles lighting up the day. A reporter approached. "Miss Charlotte, any thoughts on your sister starting her sentence today while you open this facility?"